We continue with our daily Gemara. We are in Sanhedrin, Kuf Yud Amud Aleph 110a. The last thing we discussed is Korach's wealth, and how this wealth is what gave him the audacity, instead of being humbled by the kindness Hashem showed him, he ended up using that as a platform to pick a fight with Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Talmud told us in very harsh terms that one who picks a fight with their teacher, with the Moshe Rabbeinu, in their scenario, it's as if they're fighting with the presence of Hashem itself. So the line begins with the word Raglehem. It's it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the wide set of lines. And the word we're looking for is V'omer Rabbi Levi. Rabbi Levi says, in describing the wealth, the great wealth of that Korach had, it says like this: Mashve Gimel Meis Pradas Levonos. It took 300 mules, donkeys. Hayu Mafteches Shal Beis Nozo Shal Korach. It took 300 donkeys to pull the keys to the treasuries of Korach. That's how great and big they were. V'kulu, and all of these keys, according to one reading in Rashi, Aklidi v'klipi daglidi v'kalfi daglida, they were all, the keys and the locks were all made of leather. And nonetheless, that's how heavy they were. You know, metal being that heavy is one thing, requiring that kind of donkeys to pull it, but leather is lighter, and therefore to have such keys that are made of leather that are so heavy requires lots of wealth. This is just the keys of his treasury. Okay, now this is obviously the literal meaning of Gemara, and obviously there are deeper layers of what this means. 300 and leather keys, and it takes 300 mules to pull it. Not 300 keys, I'm sorry, 300 mules to pull the keys. That's how heavy they were. Well, what this all means, of course, open for interpretation. Amar Rab Chanina said, Gimel Matmanias hit min Yosef b'Mitzrayim. Yosef, Hatzadik, the viceroy to Paroi, way back, son of Yaakov, the one who predicted the famine, and then predicted the years of wealth and then the years of famine, which brought the Jews down to Mitzrayim, which led to the whole enslavement and the whole story. So we all know that Yosef, of course, suggested and ran the project of building supplies during the years of wealth so that they can survive the years of famine. So says the Gemara like this. Rab Chama bar Chanina says, Gimel Matmanias hit min Yosef Mitzrayim. There were 3 such treasuries that Yosef hid in Mitzrayim. Now, I don't know if this means he actually hid the actual, the grain that they hid, or maybe because he charged everybody for the grain that he had treasuries from there. Either way, he hid 3 treasuries in Egypt. Achas neskalsa Korach. One such treasury was revealed to Korach, and that's why he was so wealthy. Va'achas, and one such treasury, Niskalsa, was revealed on Antoninus ben Asvirus, to the Roman emperor known as Antoninus, son of Asvirus. I'm not sure what the names are in the common use, but this is the way the Gemara refers to this Roman emperor. Maybe someone here knows who they are. Who this is. Va'achas, and the third treasury that Yosef hid, Genuza, is concealed, is still there. L'tzadikim, for the righteous, l'asad for the time, for the era of Mashiach, they'll be able to enjoy of the wealth that Yosef hid. And again, of course, I am sure there is a spiritual meaning here, and I'm just going to kind of give a window into what direction I think we can go to try to understand this. I mentioned before, a while back, when we introduced Korach, we mentioned this idea that Korach's mistake was that he was ahead of his time. When Mashiach comes, the truth that everything is being brought into being by God Himself, and even the world of division, or the world that appears to be division, separate, is in truth godly. So Korach already has this connection to the Messianic era, and that he is pushing ahead of his time, in some sense. Likewise, Antoninus ben Asvirus, the Roman emperor, we mentioned once before, way back when we were discussing Mashiach, we mentioned that Mashiach is sitting at the gates of Rome. And we talked about this idea that The Messianic revelation doesn't come from above to below, but comes from exile, from the place of suffering, and from there emerges a goodliness and a godliness, which is connected to this idea that Korach is trying to get to, mistakenly, because he's doing it earlier. As we explained at length, he missed the point in that in order to get to that, there has to be a hierarchy of spiritual revelation so that you can reveal the godliness that's in this place of darkness. But nonetheless, there is a similar idea in that Mashiach emerges from the place of darkness. That was Korach's mistake, whereas, and that's the Roman mistake, if you will. The Roman exile mistake is that it's an exile in and of itself and not revealing the godliness that's there. And then finally, the third one is actually that the treasury is hidden for Mashiach's coming. So maybe there's some sort of connection that can be made there. And especially considering the fact that Yosef is the prototype of one who lived this messianic ideal. He was a viceroy in Egypt. He lived in the highest upper echelons of society. And from there, he proved to be a good Jew, a faithful Jew, even in the place of exile. So there's really this recurring theme that connects these four elements: Yosef, Rome, Korach, and the Messianic era. Okay. Rabbi says, Korach, there were three different ways in which the people of Korach met their demise. One is they were swallowed into the ground. One is they were singed, they were burnt up. And the third is there was a plague. So Rabbi is suggesting that Korach himself was part of the category of people who died in the plague, not swallowed on the ground, nor burnt. How does he derive this? Not from those who were swallowed in the ground. Because the verse reads, in describing those who were swallowed in the ground, the verse in Bamidbar Tezayin Lamebeis 16:32 of Numbers, the verse reads that the earth opened up and swallowed in the homes and the tents of the people of Korach. That's called Adam Ashal Korach. And the verse concludes, and all those who are with Korach. And therefore, says Rabbi Yochanan, the people who were with Korach were swallowed up, v'loi Korach, but not Korach himself. So that's his proof that Korach was not from those who were swallowed in the ground. V'loi min hasrufim, and he was not from those who were burnt. The Ksiv, as the verse reads, be'achal ha'esh, when the fire consumed, es chamishim masayim ish, the 250 people, and again, Rabbi Yochanan derives, v'loi Korach, but it wasn't Korach himself. The verse concludes it was 250 people. Now, Rashi explains for us that the way he gets to that is because the verse reads that there were 250 people who had sticks. When they contested Aaron, they all put their sticks down, and God made miraculously that Aaron's staff grew almonds, proving that God chose him. So the verse reads that there was 250 such, not sticks, they were the pans, machtos, the fans, 250 pans, plus those of the pans with the offerings, the incense. 250 pans, plus Aaron and Korach, meaning to say Aaron and Korach are not from the 250. And thus, when the verse reads that 250 were singed, were burnt, Korach is not part of that number. Now, Masnisa Tana, the Gemara tells us that in the Mishnah was taught, this was Rabbi Yochanan speaking till now, but the Mishnah says Korach was both min hasrufim, was those who were amongst those who were burnt, and from those who were swallowed in the ground. Now, how could he be both? How could you be both burnt and swallowed in the ground? So Rashi explains that his soul was burnt out of his body, kind of like the way the sons of Aaron, who died, that their souls came out of their nostrils. It was burnt out, but their bodies stayed intact. So likewise, this happened to Korach. His soul was burnt out of his body remained intact, and then his body rolled to the location where they were swallowed up, and then he was swallowed up as well. So he got both the burning and the swallowing. This is what the Mishnah tells us, the way Rashi interprets it. And the Gemara is going to bring a verse to prove this. So the Ksiv, the verse reads, Vativla oisam, and the ground, and they were swallowed them, and therefore them includes all of them, the es Korach, including Korach. Now, the Mishnah, which said that Korach is both those who were swallowed and burnt. How does the Mishnah derive that Korach was indeed burnt? The Ksiv, as the verse reads, and a fire emerged from Hashem, 250 were burnt up. The Korach badayu, and Korach is part of the 250. Now, what about the fact that Rabbi Yochanan proved to us earlier that the verse which says 250 people had their pans, their machtos, plus Aaron and Korach, meaning that Aaron and Korach are separate from the 250, how does the Mishnah understand that verse? So explains Rashi that when the verse says, and Korach and Aaron, it's referring to the next part of the verse, which reads, describing the death by the plague, and therefore the word Korach is connected to the next statement rather than the preceding statement describing the 250. And therefore it's not 250 plus Korach, it's 250, one statement, and then Korach going to the next statement, and therefore Korach is still really part of the 250. Okay, Amar Rav Rav says, what's the meaning of the verse? This is a beautiful idea which requires some deep thought, but I'm going to of course first going to translate it literally, and then we will try to offer some deeper insight into what's going on here. So the verse reads in Habakkuk, the book of Habakkuk, chapter 3, verse 11. So it's like this: Shemesh Yareach Amad Zavula, the sun and the moon stood in this place. La'orchitzecha, to the light of your arrows, Yahalechu, they will go. So what does this mean? So explains the Gemara. Malamet she'alu Shemesh v'Yareach l'Zvul. Shemesh and Yareach went up to Zvul. Now, Zvul is one of the seven heavens, is called Zvul. There are seven heavens, Rakia, and there's different names for them, and one of them is called Zvul. So the sun and the moon went to Zvul. The literal meaning, as I just described it, the word Zavula in this verse means its place. They stayed in their place. But can also be meant Zvul, to this location called Zvul, to this heaven referred to as Zvul. And Amr Lafanov, the sun and the moon, says before him, capital H, before God, Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe, if you are going to show judgment and prove the righteousness of the son of Amram, Moshe Rabbeinu, son of Amram, Neitze, then we'll go out and continue doing our job to shine light to the earth. Vimlav, and if you do not show justice to the son of Amram, to Moshe, Loi Neitze, we're not moving from here. Until God struck arrows, as it were, and struck down Korach to prove the justice of Moshe, then they're going to emerge. Amar lahen, but God told them, for my honor, you don't protest. There are people all over the world who are bowing to the sun and the moon, to you, says God to the sun and the moon, and you don't protest. But for a human being, for Moshe Rabbeinu, people are contesting his position, and now you're not. Now you're protesting. Mechisem, for them you are protesting. End of conversation. Va'idna, but now there's the two versions in Rashi. We're going to go with one of them. Va'idna now, loy nafki adamachalahu. They don't emerge from their place. They don't. The sun and the moon don't shine unless they first protest those who bow down to them. Wow, what does this mean? God is having a conversation with the sun and the moon. Since when do the sun and the moon have free choice to have kind of conversation? They don't. The sun and the moon, as paraphrasing the verse in Isaiah, they're like a axe in the hand of the wood chopper. They don't have any free choice. So what does this mean? The sun and the moon are arguing with God. So understanding this is the same way we understand many of the midrashim which talk about conversations between God's mercy versus God's kindness, or God's strength, gvura versus his chesed. The Medrash describes these kinds of conversations, and obviously what it means is that each created being and each divine attribute is made by design, by God's choice, as such that they each have a certain position. So when they say things, it's not that they're physically saying things, it's that their position is such. So for example, just to use a colloquial expressionism, if I were to tell you that a ball says, if you let go of me, I'm going to drop. You understand? And when I say that, I don't mean that the ball is literally speaking and telling me that if you let go of me, it's going to fall. But what you understand what I mean is that the ball's existence is such that it states in its very beingness, let go of me, I'm going to drop. So which means like this: the sun and the moon, in and of themselves, are programmed as such that they defend the honor of Moshe and his Torah. And then, perhaps what's going on in this conversation is that Hashem is embedding another element into their being. That not only do they protest the honor of the righteous Moshe Rabbeinu and his Torah, but even all of creation. Because ultimately, God doesn't just want the Jewish people to serve him, but rather, as the Messianic era is going to be, that all people will know God. And therefore, God's kind of telling the sun and the moon, God's alluding to the fact that the sun and the moon, that at some future time, your nature is going, in the same way your nature now is to defend Moshe Rabbeinu, your nature is also going to be that you defend against my honor for all of humanity. And that your very being, the sun and the moon's being itself, does protest idol worship in his very beingness, and not just for the honor of the Jew, for Moshe Rabbeinu, but even if random other people are serving idols, that too the sun and the moon itself protests. This is perhaps a way of understanding it, and of course the floor is open for other ways of understanding. The Gemara continues like this. Darash Rava expounded on the following verse. What's the meaning of the verse which reads? It's in Bamidbar 16:30. Then Bria Yivra Hashem, and if a creation God shall create, says Moshe Rabbeinu, Upatasa Adama, and the earth shall open as Pia its mouth. So what's the meaning of this verse? God saying, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling God, if something is created, Bria Yavri, if God were to create, Bria Yivra, I'm sorry. So explains the Gemara, explains Rava. Omar Moshe says, Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before the Holy One, blessed be. In Bria Gehenom, if purgatory has already been created, Mutav, good. Korach and his people can go down there. Vim Lav, and if Gehenom, purgatory has not been created, Yivra Hashem, let Hashem create it. The Gemara further analyzes this. Lamai, what kind of request is this from Moshe Rabbeinu? If you mean to say that Moshe Rabbeinu is actually asking God to create of new this idea called Gehenom, this idea of purgatory. But Ein Kol Chadash Tachas HaShemesh. The verse reads in Ecclesiastes, a famous verse in Koheles. It's in 1:9. There is nothing new under the sun. But God created at the beginning of creation. That's it. No new creations. So how can Moshe Rabbeinu be asking God to actually create purgatory? If it hasn't been created, it's not going to be created now. Ella, rather, l'kruvi pischa. Moshe is asking that the opening to Gehenom be brought near to this location so that the people of Korach can be swallowed in there. Again, I'm sure there's much deeper layers to this. What does this mean? Purgatory has a certain physical location that it has to be brought near. What is this all about? And why is that called, at least even euphemistically, even if it's only broadly speaking, but we refer to it as a creation? What does this mean? I'm going to leave that open. I don't have thoughts on that yet, but these are the questions that I'm kind of thinking about. The verse reads, famous verse, Ubnei Korach lemesu, and the children of Korach did not die. This is a verse in Bamidbar 26:11. So Tana, it's been taught, Mishum Rabbeinu, the name of Rabbeinu, our teacher. But usually when it says Rabbeinu, it means Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the compiler of the Mishnah. Amru, they say, Mishum Rabbeinu Amru, it was said in the name of Rabbeinu, and they say in the name of our teacher, in the name of the compiler of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Makim Nisbatzilem Gehenom, a fortified location has been made for the people of Korach for the children of Korach in Gehenom, in purgatory. V'yashvolov, and they're sitting there. V'amru Shira, and they're singing the praises of Hashem in the depth of Gehenom, singing the praises of Hashem. Now comes another amazing story, which of course requires some deeper explanation, but let's just read the story as is. Amar Rabba Barchana, Rabba, the son of Barchana, says, Zimnachad, there was one time, I was traveling along the way. There was this Arabic traveler who came and told me, come with me, and I'll show you Blue de Korach, the place where Korach is swallowed up. I'm going to show you the location. Also we went. I saw two holes from which smoke was emerging. Shakal Gavava da Amra, this Arabic traveler took a woolen fleece cloth, Amshemaya, soaked it in water, Vaisiva Beresh Rumche, and put it at the top of his spear, Va'achlafe Hasam, and he waved it over these two holes with the smoke emerging. Ichrech, the cloth was singed. Amarli, this Arabic traveler tells me, Rabbi Bar Barchana, Atzis, come, listen, Ma Shamas, what do you hear? Vishamas, and I heard, says Rabbi Barchana, Davaka Amri, that the children of Korach were saying, I guess he heard the sound coming from those holes. They were saying as follows, quote, Moshe v'Torah emes, Moshe and his Torah are true. V'hein, and they, referring to themselves, the children of Korach, Badoyim, are liars, are a farce. This is what they're declaring. Moshe and his Torah are true, and we are false. Wow, it's a pretty heavy statement. Amar Li, this Arabic traveler told me, says Rabbi Barchana, called Klas and Yomin, every 30 days. Mahadlo Gehenom kibasar b'toich kachelas. Gehenom, purgatory itself, brings them back to this location like a person who's flipping meat on a barbecue. V'amri hachi, and they, the children of Korach, say this: Moshe v'Torah emes, Moshe and his Torah is true, v'hein, and they, referring to themselves, badoim, are liars. Powerful words. And this is the closing words of the Gemara on its discussion of Korach as the group of people who lost their share in the world to come. And then tomorrow we're going to get to the people of the desert, the ones who didn't want to go into Israel as a result of the spies' testimony. And we'll talk more about that. But I want to just make the following comment in closing. Of course, the story requires deeper explanation, what this is all about. But I just want to make this comment. Imagine the incredibleness of this statement of the children of Korach. They're in the depths of Gehenom. They know they're not getting any share in the world to come. They're completely cast off. And yet, they, as Rabbeinu said it, Rabbi Danasi said it, Amru Shira, they come and say Shira. They sing praises to Hashem. Imagine that. They could easily tell themselves, look, we're castaways. We are cut off. So leave it be. We're cut off. Goodbye, Charlie. No. Every 30 days they make the same declaration. Moshe is true and his Torah is true. And we are false. Even though they know there's no hope for them. In a way, it's an empowering statement on faith. Those famous stories of the Baal Shem Tov, how he was once, a long story but he had to give up in order to give a blessing to somebody, he had to give up his share in the world to come. And he did it. He gave up his share in the world to come. And he said that now he's truly happy. Because until now, he was serving God. Well, maybe I'm serving God because I'm getting a share in the world to come. But now that I gave it up, I know I'm serving God only for the service of Hashem. Now, what happened with the Baal Shem Tov and where he is in the world to come is not my business. I don't know it. I mean, there's a whole long story to this. But this idea that the Baal Shem Tov is happy and that he's willing to serve Hashem knowing he has no share in the world to come is not the same, God forbid, but reflected in a similar thing with the children of Korach here, knowing that they're in the depth of Gehenom and they have no share in the world to come, and yet every 30 days they make this declaration: Moshe is true, Torah is true, and we are false. And this is their song, as it were, that they sing from God to God from the bowels of hell. Very, very, in a kind of twisted way, uplifting. Have a wonderful day. I'm looking forward to continuing our Gemara.